Last week I asked the question, are we prepared for global jihad? If there are sleeper cells here and Hamas, Hezbollah or other groups, Iran, activate them to attack U.S. cities, U.S. citizens, as a nation, as police responders, as military responders, are we ready for that? Yes and no. So this week I'm asking, are you ready for it? Got a bunch of stuff here on the table. I'll show you what it is. It's not a big long-term prepper kit, but I think it's enough to keep you alive and able to fight these people off for a while. If you're interested, stick around. Hello folks, Dick Fairburn here on a kind of a blustery day in Illinois. Hopefully the wind won't be too bad and interfere with the recording. Last week I posted a video about Hamas's call for a global jihad. And I called that video, Are We Prepared? And I told you what, as a country and as law enforcement, some of the programs that we have undertaken in the last 10-15 years to be prepared for multiple terrorist attacks, attacks by sleeper cells, just unknown problems that we could face. We know our southern border is wide open. Our northern border is not much better. Unquestionably, people on the no-fly list or the terrorist watch list have come across these borders. We've caught many of them, but we haven't caught them all. So the threat is here. It remains to be seen how big this conflagration in the Middle East will become. But I think we need to be prepared. So instead of saying, are we prepared today, I'm going to ask, are you prepared? Now I really think most of these attacks are going to be in major metropolitan cities. I really think they're going to be focused around large Jewish populations because that's their number one enemy. But their number two enemy is any American. So they could be anywhere and they could start at any time. Are you prepared to protect your home, your castle, your family, your neighbors? I'm not sure how far that protection will reach out. That's something that you have to work out yourself and with the other people around you. But this is not just concealed carry. This is not just a little pocket pistol. This has to look at the possibility that multiple armed people could be attacking you, your family, your home. What do we need to be prepared for that? First of all, if you don't have military or law enforcement training with small arms, go get some. Go get some good training, especially with the rifle. Most of us that conceal carry, we've had some pistol training. You can never have too much. But your primary weapon to defend your home and your family is a rifle. Shotguns are great for short range, but I think Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman said it best with his quote, that taking a rifle to a gunfight is like taking a chainsaw to a knife fight. You need a modern semi-automatic weapon. Caliber choice is yours. 5.56 is the most obvious to me. 300 blackout will work. I did not bring it to show today, but I have a bigger version. This is the AR-15 platform, particularly a Colt M4. I have a Smith & Wesson M&P 10, the 7.62 version of this platform. Mine is chambered in the .308 Winchester or 7.62 by 51. Both U.S. military rounds. Now you can go 6.5 Creedmoor with that larger action. There are a lot of options you can put together. Your best chance for finding ammo should you start running low are going to be 5.56 and 7.62. They're going to be around. Okay? I have this particular rifle set up kind of as a designated marksman rifle, which means I have a magnified optic on here. This is a Loophole VX6. It's an older VX6. It goes from 1 to 6 power. It has the German 4 reticle, so it has big thick bars on the sides and the bottom to draw your focus into the center. Crosshairs in the center, and it has a red dot on those crosshairs that I can turn on when I need. So I've essentially got a red dot sight when I dial this down to 1 power. And most of these don't go down to a true 1 power. They're more like 1.1 or 1.05. They're not exactly 1. They're more than good enough. If you've got a scope that goes down to 1.5, that's still very workable for close range combat. The option to this is I can dial out to 6. I live in a more rural setting. I could see the need to reach out to 100 yards or more, and I want that magnified optic on there. My 7.62 is rigged out so that it can hold a number of optics. I can switch this over to my 7.62. It normally has a Leupold BX3 3-9. It has the CDS dial for my 308 load, so I can dial it out to 600 yards. With that particular load, that rifle will shoot sub-minute of angles. So it is essentially a semi-automatic sniper rifle out to reasonable ranges. This also has a CDS. This one is homemade because these older ones, if you got the CDS dial for them and left them uncovered, they could be rubbed and get out of arrangement. The newer VX6s have a lock button, so that can't happen. So I have set this to where I need it. That way I can cap it and leave it alone. The sighting video I did a number of months ago, I did on the 5.56 round. I recommend you sight at 50 yards, which with most loads will be almost exactly on again at 200 yards. It's only going to be 1.5 inches to inch 1.8 high at the midpoint of the trajectory, which is at about 120 or 30 yards. This is going to be within 2 inches of point of aim from essentially 10 yards to probably 220, 240 yards, depending on the ammunition you use. So within that range, I don't need to worry about holdover on torso shots. I hold in the middle. I'm going to be within 2 inches point of aim. That's a good way to do it. The 308 is zeroed similarly. It just simply not as flat a trajectory, and especially if you go beyond for longer ranges. People ask about triggers. I have upgraded the triggers on these. I am not into screwing a lot of cool stuff on your ARs. I think most of the time the basic stuff works fine. The triggers are kind of lousy. Both of mine are equipped with Geissele 2-stage triggers. There are a lot of good triggers out there from many different manufacturers. The reason I went with Geissele is because my friends in the special operations community tell me that most of the military rifles which have upgraded triggers are generally using a Geissele trigger. It's bulletproof. It's going to fire every time. Worth a little bit of extra money. I have a weapon mounted white light. The one on my 308 has a large bell on it. It is a long range version from Streamlight, and you can very easily illuminate a target under full darkness out to a couple hundred yards with that light. You need an M4. Does it need to be an expensive one? No. Does it need to be a reliable one? Yes. So get it out. Put a couple of 30-round magazines through it fast. Get it smoking hot and see if it's still working. That's probably the best way to test if that thing's going to stand up under stress. If you know you're working in strictly close ranges out to perhaps 100 yards, then I think something like an Aimpoint or an EOTech non-magnifying illuminated reticle sight is a good idea. You've seen mine in other videos. It actually mounts out here at the very end of the rails on this Colt M4. Why so far out? Because there is no eye relief with this red dot sight. Anywhere you put it, the image is going to be in focus, the red dot's going to be in focus. So by getting it out further, I open up more peripheral vision around it. Not my idea. I stole that from John Farnham. Great idea. With the magnified optics, there is a fixed eye box here where you have to get in closer to get that proper eye relief. So that does complicate your forward vision. It's a trade-off. Ammo. Down on my reloading bench, I have a bumper sticker that my friend Jeff Hoffman at Black Hills Ammo gave me a number of years ago. And it says it simply, there is no such thing as too much ammo. I recommend that you pair your ammunition and you focus around one of the U.S. military loads. This happens to be a can of M855. I put some of this in cloth bandoliers to throw over your shoulder. The M855 is the green tip that we commonly see. 62 grain, has a small metal insert in the point to give it a little bit better penetration. Match whatever carry load you're going to use to one of our full metal jacket loads. Okay? When I was still working as a cop, I used a 63 grain Barnes TSX load from Black Hills Ammunition. It matched perfectly in trajectory out to a couple 300 yards with the 62 grain M855 round. If you're shooting something more in the line of a 55 grain or 60 grain perhaps, then you may be better off with the M193. No green tip, 55 grain full metal jacket. These the 855 and the 193 are generally always the least expensive ammo that you can get your hands on. So this is great for training, and it's also great for bulk storage. Now I think you should have a combat load of at least 3 or 4 30-round magazines loaded with top quality anti-personnel loads. The 63 grain Barnes, Black Hills makes a very unique 50 grain Barnes TSX. It is the only load custom designed for anti-personnel use. And it will give phenomenal performance. It is almost barrier blind through auto glass and other things, out to about 200 yards. Beyond 200 yards, the velocity drops away so that it will not reliably expand. All of our fighting is probably going to be within 200 yards. We are defensive, not offensive. Okay? So 193 or 855 matched with whatever load you prefer. And I'm putting together a video on terminal ballistics for 5.56 and some of the better loads I think are out there. Having these in stripper clips combined with a clip adapter allows you to rapidly fill empty magazines. This is a PMag. They take the military clip adapter. Some of the plastic ones do, some of them don't. Here's an older 30-round GI metal. By dropping that clip in there, you can pull in 10 rounds pretty quickly, fill up a 30-round magazine in very little time. I mentioned on the last video, if you have magazines on the shelf that are not loaded, this is probably the time to load them. But when it comes time to reload them, stripper clips and a stripper clip adapter are going to help that process. Maybe those empty magazines can be thrown over to another family member and they can be handling that task for you if you've truly got a team of enemy people coming your way. There is no such system for the bigger rounds. Here's a PMag for the AR-10 series, 7.62 rounds or 308s. I like the PMags because of these covers. When you get to here and you snap them in place, they actually depress that top round just a little bit. Takes that pressure off the lips. I think that's a good idea. Also serves as a dust cover. Do not be afraid of getting your hands on straight 20-round magazines. These, this happens to be a Colt, but they were made by dozens of manufacturers back in the Vietnam era. When I went through basic and infantry school in 1978, we had GI metal 30-round magazines. I wouldn't call them unreliable, but they weren't the most reliable. And in fact, the instructors would occasionally, if they saw you getting a couple of malfunctions or something, they would look at that magazine, and I have seen them throw it on the ground, stomp on it to make sure it's unusable, and then throw it in the trash can. The early 30s were known to stop feeding occasionally. They have now gone through several generations of followers in there because the followers can kind of get tilted. The latest ones are the greatest ones. I think I got a dozen of these 30 rounders on sale one time at Brownell's just a few years ago. So the Brownells 30 rounders, great magazines, virtually no malfunctions with that metal 30. The PMag 30s I think are probably as good as you're going to get. I kind of like the ones with the little window. I can glance down and see how many rounds I've got left in there. But these things are indestructible. I have never seen a 20 fail unless it was obviously damaged in the area of the feed lips. And 20 rounds is still a fairly decent load. I used to, right before I retired as a cop, I had the weapon loaded, chamber empty, but magazine in place, in a soft cover in the trunk of my Chief's car. A 30 wouldn't fit, but a 20 did. So I had a 20 in it, and then 30s on my vest in case this didn't handle it. Most police rifle shootings, 20 rounds is way more than enough. But if you're in a fight with a team of people coming to your home, you can't have too many magazines. You can find these used. A lot of times they're almost gold colored from being worn years and years of handling. The straight 20s are absolutely the most reliable magazine I know for any kind of M16 platform. One other thing I always carried, it's up to you if you want to have one of these available. I have one 20 round magazine that is loaded with tracers. I mark it with that yellow tape. So if things go to shit, I can mark where my enemy is. I got this tip from an old CW3 chief warrant officer who flew Cobras in Vietnam. He said his rifle that he kept in the cockpit with him was an old M1 carbine, but he always made sure he had a 15 round magazine of tracers for it. And on one time when he was shot down in his Cobra, he had air support coming in. They could not see where the enemy was. He swapped over to that magazine of tracers, and when he heard them coming behind him, he said, I'm going to mark their location, fire on my tracers. And he started putting tracers into the tree line over there, and he said, tracers bring napalm, and napalm makes them quit shooting. Tip I stole from him. If you live in a godforsaken state like I do now, where technically the only legal thing for your AR is a 10 round magazine, then I guess you're stuck with a 10 round magazine. But if people are shooting up your house or threatening you and your family and you happen to have some hidden 30s, that's probably the time to break them out. Okay? I think I can justify whatever I need in the states who have not yet been spanked by the Supreme Court and made to understand that magazines are an integral part of an arm, and they are necessary. They are not high capacity. They are normal capacity for this weapon. Just my thoughts. Ammo cans are good for storage. I've seen people on YouTube say don't ever leave them in cardboard sleeves or containers. It can stain and corrode the brass and stuff. I think the military knows what they're doing, and I think this cardboard is designed so that it won't do that. So if you buy it in the military style containers with those cardboard inserts, I have no fear that it's going to stay good. Snap those down, keep them closed. If you really want to long-term store them, then get some dry ice. Put a little piece of dry ice in there, let it sublimate out to CO2. When the cold stuff is kind of flowing over the sides, you can see, then you have replaced all the oxygen in that can. You snap that lid down, that ammo is going to be viable for longer than any of us will need it. A backup plan. You got bulk ammo, you don't want to leave it in the original containers, you can backpack it. Now I had a backpack that wasn't the best back then. This is completely waterproof, but it has lost a little bit of its seal so that the ammo can move around a little bit. But backpacking is a good way to store stuff. This container has kept its vacuum. Here's 100 rounds, 230 grain hollow points for my 45. Okay? In this kind of a fight, that's going to be a lot, because the primary fighting you're going to do is going to be with the rifle, not the handgun. I hope. Speaking of clips, did a video on my my old International Harvester Corporation M1 Garand, and I showed you the can of military ammo that I have for it. This is a pet peeve of mine. When I see guys handling Garands on various YouTube videos, a lot of times the pattern of the rounds is incorrect. Whenever you got rounds issued by the military, the top round, they stagger down, but you're going to have one on the top on either end. The top round is the right round on the right hand side of the clip. But in fact, I watched one with Mr. Garand Thumb, and he's telling why they're on the right side. Because if you're worried about Garand Thumb getting your thumb caught in that action, if you have to reach in just another ½ inch further and push down on the top one if it's on the left, that's putting your thumb more at risk. So by staying closer to the right side of the receiver, it's less chance of getting your thumb caught. But his logo looks to me like, it's hard to tell, it may be on the left. And I have seen him load clips with the round on the left. Now, if you're loading your own clips, it's easy to do it the right way, so do it the right way. If you're able to find military ammo in clips, which is becoming very rare nowadays, I guarantee you it's all going to have the rightmost cartridge at the top, either way you turn it. Other basic things you need: good headlight, flashlights, small pocket flashlights, large flashlights, weapon lights. What do they take? They take batteries. So make sure you have an ample supply of batteries for whatever size you're going to need with those lights. If they're 123s, AA's, whatever you need. Both of my AR pattern rifles, I have switched to a mag pull grip. You can get inserts for these. Thank you, Mr. B. Go away. I get the insert that will take two 123 batteries. These will fit my Streamlight, a piece of paper wadded up in there, and then they won't rattle. What I did with these, they have this reinforcing rib. So with the Dremel, I very carefully made a slot. Probably not going to be able to see it there. I'll get a close-up. I put two slots in that rib. That allows me to push two 2032 batteries, the little flat disc batteries. The 123s are for my weapon light. The 2023s are for either my red dot sights, either the loophole or the aim point will run on those batteries. So that way I have a spare set of flashlight batteries and two spare batteries for my optics. And it's always in the pistol grip ready to go. Mag pull, you got to look at the way I slotted that. It'd be very easy to manufacture them such a way so that that holder can hold two 123s and also two of the flat disc batteries. Make sure you got plenty. That's the stuff on the table. That's the fighting stuff that you're going to need. But if we truly get attacks in this country, we're going to see infrastructure knocked out. I mentioned, do you have a generator or some way to keep your refrigerator cold to keep your food from spoiling? If you don't, you ought to look at it. There are solar units now that you can get that charge from solar panels and can power your appliances for a while. One that's going to last a long time or power a lot of appliances is going to cost you a lot of money. A gas-powered generator or the newer inverters, which are a lot quieter, is more likely going to be able to feed your house. In my neck of the woods, we lose power from time to time. A lot of my friends have installed the permanent natural gas-fired generators that automatically kick on and You can get them large enough to run your air conditioners and everything else. Your house would have everything it would have when the grid is up. So that's a thing to look into. How can you power your refrigerators, lights at night, enough to keep going for a few days? And then in terms of the fresh food that you have in the refrigerator, you can supplement that with canned food. Canned food isn't always the best, but it'll keep you going. If your plan for feeding you and your family is to just go to the grocery store, remember one thing. Most grocery stores resupply themselves almost completely every 24 to 72 hours. Remember how hard it was to get toilet paper in the first few days of the COVID problem? When people panic buy, they're going to clean those shelves of stuff they don't even like. And it may be a while before they get restocked. So going to the grocery store is not something you should depend on. For a number of years, I kept about 3 cases of MREs on hand. That's meals rejected by Ethiopians. Most of it's not too bad to eat. The problem I have with them is depending on the manufacturer. Now these are genuine military. A lot of the MREs you get at gun shows or wherever are not genuine military things. I mean, we were getting them from the National Guard when we were doing some training courses for them. These generally have about a 15-year shelf life. Some of the MREs only have 5 to 10 years. The downside to them, even if you leave them in their double cardboard boxes, is I live in the country. I have cornfields around me, or bean fields, and I have a lot of mice. This is mouse damage. I had 2 or 3 of these left over just laying on the pile of my other long-term storage food. Mice are not deterred at all. So when my last supply of MREs got to the end of their life cycle, I started buying freeze-dried. Now these are from different companies. Containers are almost identical, so I don't know who's who. I'm not supporting anybody. I'm certainly not sponsored by anybody. These are freeze-dried. Okay, this brand says they have 12 pouches, 29 servings. These have 60 servings. They have about a 25-year life cycle. I got a household of 2. So I want to make sure I had enough food for 30 to 60 days for the 2 of us. If you're going to supplement this by using canned food or what you can get from the grocery stores, you can have a 30, 60, maybe 90-day supply. For me, that's enough. I've never been interested in the long-term prepper mindset. I have a very good friend who is in the gun industry. He invited me to join his community in case of shit hits the fan and we got to go to the boondocks for a long time. I don't know I didn't sign on, so I don't know all the details. I think I know where it's going to be. I think I know some of the people who are going to be in that enclave. And he will probably have doctors, nurses, dentists, engineers, whatever kind of specialty you need. I got a feeling he's got somebody signed on to that group. The reason I don't look at long-term is my age and my infirmities. I'm a type 2 diabetic and I have some other issues going on as well. So when I exhaust my supply of medications, 90 days, maybe if I can talk the doctor and the pharmacist into it, I might get a 180-day supply. At the end of that, I'm going to start dying. And the kind of death it would be is not a pretty way to go. So I'm not interested in that long-term preparation to be able to exist for years until society can rebuild itself. I'm not going to last that long. So I'm looking personally for 30 to 60 to 90 days maximum of being prepared in terms of prepper stuff. Food, water. You got to have water. This is a, if you can see the drawing here, this is a water bag. This is the kind of filtration that backpackers use. You can fill this bag up. It drains into a bucket or containers that you have, and you can flow probably, I've used one of the, I have not used this one, I've kept it ready to go. But you're flowing probably a half gallon to a gallon an hour, and it will last you at least 30 to 60 days with that filter. If you're looking more long term, then you need more. You can boil water. You can use the pills that sterilize the water. You can store water. When I had MREs in storage, I also had about 200 2-liter bottles that had been rinsed out thoroughly. I dropped 3 drops of chlorine bleach into each 2-liter bottle, filled it with water, capped it, and had it next to my MREs. I haven't bothered to do that again. Instead, I've looked for filtration as a way to keep the water supply going. This is a minimal prepper setup, and the folks that are really into it and have really looked at it long term, they're much better prepared than I am. But it's different mindsets. We're looking at doing different things, different time frames of survival. I'd like to take a little time to do a little business. First of all, shameless plug for my book, my second book, Building a Better Gunfighter. I have a number of these in paper copy. They are still available on either eBay or on my website at dickfairburn.com. The first book, Police Rifles, is no longer in print, but both of these will soon be out in an ebook format, so you can pick them up that way. I would also like to ask you to please subscribe, ring the little notification bell, and if you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up. That's what helps grow this channel. That's what helps develop more content for you that are interested in what I want to do. So I appreciate it if you could buy the book, if you can subscribe, ring the bell, and give me a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've talked about weapons. This is probably the time to have that weapon carried openly. I am not generally a proponent of open carry in populated areas. I understand it's legal in many states. It may be a constitutional right. It makes you a target for someone who may want your gun. And it just kind of stirs things up. Being low profile, having a concealed weapon just makes more sense to me. You do what you wish. But if we are in defense mode and there are attacks going on in your area, this is the time to have that pistol out and very ready to go. Hip holster, chest holster, however you want to carry it. Carbine. Lots of ammo, either a red dot or a non-magnifying red illuminated reticle sight. Something in the 1 to 6, 1 to 8, maybe as far as 1 to 10 range for more of a designated marksman scope if you think you're going to be dealing with or could be dealing with targets out to beyond 100 yards. As I said, plenty of ammo. Food, a water source. These are minimal. Preppers, true preppers' basements look a lot different than mine. They're set up for the long term. One other thing I will say that I have spent a little bit of money on, and really very little money on, is a way to communicate when shit hits the fan. Cell phone towers are probably going to be the first to fall. Eventually landlines may go out. So I have a pack that I carry in my truck. So it's available for me, the truck, the camper, home, wherever I need it. And these are the infamous Baofeng radios, UV5Rs. There's several variations of them. When I bought these, they were about 25 bucks. They will transmit on 2 of the ham radio bands, the 140 megahertz band and the 440 megahertz band, which are known as 2 meter and 70 centimeter. They will also transmit on the adjoining police public safety bands. So high band, which is in the 150s to 170s, ultra high is in the 450s to 470s. They're not exactly legal because you can program them to talk on those frequencies. The newer public safety radios, the trunked systems or the Starcom like we have here in Illinois, these are way behind that in technology. You're not going to talk on them. They normally come with a little short rubber ducky antenna. That'll work. For another $10 or $15 you can get this longer whip antenna, which will almost double your range under ideal conditions. So the longer antenna is a better performer. You can also screw these radios into vehicle mounts. This is a magnetic mount. Slap on top of your truck, run it in, screw the cable in. Now the antenna is outside of the vehicle. It has a decibel gain equal to or probably better than that longer floppy whip. So vehicle to vehicle, you're going to get some halfway decent range with these. These are either 1 watt or 4 watt radios. They have a couple other versions that will go up to 8 watt output, and I have a couple of those. That's what I would use in my vehicle. The 8 watts is not a lot more than 4, but it works. Okay, so where do you program these things? That's up to you. In case of emergency, you can transmit on any frequency you want. That's the FCC rules. To use these on the ham bands, you need a ham license. The basic ham license, the lowest level, is called a technician license. You can study up online. I took the license test. I think it cost $15 to go take the test, and I got technician. And then I could take he said, if you want to take the test for general, you can. Sometimes people will pass it, and lo and behold, I did. General opens up many more bands. So if you want to buy the gear, the lower frequencies that can bounce off the ionosphere and go around the world, you know, with the general or amateur extra license, you can use those long-range things. I don't have that kind of gear. I have several ham friends that do that round the world stuff all the time. These are going to be good enough for me. I'm going to get a mile or so, probably maximum, portable to portable. Car antenna up on the roof of the cars. If you're traveling somewhere, I'd say you're going to comfortably get 5 miles, maybe more. These are $25 radios. They may be up to $30 now. So for just a couple of $100, I have 4 of these. There are other brands that can do it for you. The one thing I like about the Baofengs is they do have accessories. You can get a little clip-on mic, so you can leave it in the holder. This is a 12-volt power adapter that you can buy for them. And perhaps the handiest is they make larger batteries, larger rechargeables. This is the size of the large rechargeable, but it takes AA. So if I've got a big supply of AA batteries, but I don't have a way to charge my rechargeables, then I can feed these things AA batteries and keep going. You can buy this whole kit for a couple $100 with 3 or 4 of these radios, a couple of vehicle mounts, and be ready to go. An advantage if you get your ham license, the 2-meter ham and the 440 centimeter or the 70 centimeter ham bands, there are repeaters all over the country that ham radio clubs put up. Okay, my town has both a 2-meter and a 70 centimeter repeater. What a repeater does is that I'm actually transmitting on one frequency and receiving on a different one. I transmit to that tower where the repeater is, that's probably 100 or more feet up in the air. And it's not uncommon to hit those repeaters with these little radios, depending on, you know, the lay of the land and things. You can hit them 25, 30 miles away. That then retransmits your signal on the B frequency. So anyone set up for that repeater, you've now got probably 25 miles to hit it and another 25 miles in all directions to hit another radio. So anyone who's set up on that repeater channel can talk to each other portable to portable, maybe as much as 50 miles apart. That's similar to what most police systems are set up as. Here's a little book you buy. There's virtually nowhere in the country you can go and not be within reach of one of those towers. So it's worth studying up, getting the technician license, learning how to use these things on those repeaters. For example, in Wyoming, I believe there are 3 different repeater frequencies that will give you the whole state because they have their towers linked together. You hit one, you may be hitting half of the state. So you can literally talk a couple of 100 miles away. $25 portable to $25 portable. That's reliable communications, okay? And it's very difficult for enemies to completely knock out those ham bands. And ham radio folks are inventive. Trust me, if they get their towers taken down, it's going to be their life's work to make sure it comes back up as rapidly as possible. They'll figure out a way to do it. So, last week I asked, are we ready as a country? No. We've had the chance to be. We've made some improvements, but I think if it happens here, we're going to have a pretty steep learning curve. So this week I'm asking, are you ready? Are you ready to protect your home, your farm, your family, your neighbors? This kind of equipment will do it for you. If you want to go long-term prepper and be prepared, you know, when shit hits the fan, to go to a special place with another group of people and be prepared for that long-term survival, then God bless you. I don't think it's for me and my wife. If it's for you, then go for it. And I hope it works for you. Be safe out there, folks. We really don't know what's coming our way.
Okay, we got them both here now. You ready? Bud got one. Ginger got one. Oh, she missed it. She usually gets them, doesn't she, Bud? Okay, girl, last one. You ready? You ready? Yeah! That's all there is till next time.